The following is an encore presentation of U.S. Modernist Radio, underwritten by the Brent R. Harris Charitable Trust, restorer of several modernist houses, including Richard Neutra's Kaufman Desert House in Palm Springs, and by Diane Bald and the Budman family, restoring significant architecture in Toronto, Los Angeles, Malibu, and Palm Springs.
Hi, I'm Federico Engel.
Hi, I'm Glenda Flame.
We are partners at Butler Armstrong Architects in San Francisco.
And you're listening to U.S. Modernist Radio.
Mama don't allow no architecture around here. Mama don't allow no architecture around here. Oh, I don't care what Mama don't allow, gonna draw mine modern anyhow. Mama don't allow no architecture around here.
Welcome to U.S. Modernist Radio, where we talk and laugh with people who enjoy, own, create, dream about, preserve, love, and hate modernist architecture, the most exciting and controversial buildings in the world. And this just in, U.S. Modernist Radio is now the number 3 arts and design podcast in Singapore.
Yay!
Hello, South Asia. You all remember the 1994 movie Speed, the huge hit with the runaway L.A. bus that put Keanu Reaves and Sandra Bullock on the map as major stars? 10 years later, with the public clamoring for more Keanu and Sandra, they shot another movie, but got completely upstaged by a co-star. The Lake House was a romantic fantasy film about a magic, time-traveling mailbox for a particularly beautiful modernist house. Joining us today are the architect and engineer for that house, production designer Nathan Crowley, and engineer Fritz Hengge, as we celebrate the 15th anniversary of the birth and death of one of the movie's most amazing houses. Joining us later from Nashville, special musical guest Heather Rigdon. And now, if I can get him to stop smiling, must be that Singapore news, here's your host, George Smart.
Well, hi, folks. I'm happy about our Singapore audience, but I'm really happy because we've got such a good show today. The guys behind the Lake House and one of my very favorite singers, Heather Rigdon, who you'll be looking up on Pandora very soon. Let's start with Speed, 1994. Such a good movie. Hard to believe it was out over 25 years ago. We all love the pairing of Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock because otherwise we would have seen Stephen Baldwin and Ellen DeGeneres, who were first considered for the roles.
Really?
I am not making that up.
Ooh.
They would have been awful. The always delirious Dennis Hopper of Easy Rider and Blue Velvet fame puts a bomb on Sandra's public bus, set to blow up when the bus stops. Cop Keanu is called in and boards while the bus is moving, and while Keanu tries to locate and defuse the bomb, Sandra drives it all around L.A., including a dramatic and physically impossible bus jump. Hundreds of armchair Einsteins quickly determined that a bus traveling at only 69 miles an hour would go straight down into flames.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop fans from around the world from loving the scene. The movie was a huge hit, and immediately there were calls for a sequel. And the bad news is, there was a sequel. Speed 2, with Sandra minus Keanu, involving a cruise ship headed to blow up an oil tanker.
That was stupid. So stupid.
Yeah. Getting Keanu and Sandra together didn't happen until The Lake House, which cost a fourth as much as Speed 2 and made $75 million. Nice. We'll talk with production designer Nathan Crowley and engineer Fritz Hengge to celebrate the 15th anniversary of the birth and death of one of the movie's most amazing houses. All right, let's get to it. Here's the plot of The Lake House, fresh off of Wikipedia. Sandra Bullock's character, Kate, leaves a lake house she has been renting in Kenosha, Wisconsin, to move to Chicago. She leaves a note in the mailbox for the next tenant to forward her mail. 2 years earlier, in 2004, Keanu Reeves as Alex, an architect, arrives at the lake house designed by his architect father, played by Christopher Plummer. He finds Kate's 2006 letter in the mailbox.
Already.
Alex and Kate continue passing messages to each other via the magic mailbox and discover they are living exactly 2 years apart. When I saw this movie for the first time, which was even before starting U.S. Modernist, I knew this was an incredible work of architecture and engineering, and I'm thrilled to have the architect and engineer with us today. Production designer Nathan Crowley, born in London, has a degree in art, worked for several architects, and later shifted into film. That was a good call, because now he's one of the most sought-after production and experienced designers in the world, in not only movies like Braveheart, Interstellar, and First Man, but also TV series such as Star Trek and Worst World. And
I really like Westworld. Have you ever seen that?
yeah.
Yeah, I prefer Westworld.
TV series such as Star Trek and Westworld, and commercial products for Captain Morgan's, Amazon, Lady Gaga, the Museum of Modern Art, and Prada. He's a regular part of the impossible-to-get tickets for Met Gala in New York every year. He's been Oscar-nominated 5 times for production design and art direction. And near and dear to us, he's been a juror for the George Matsumoto Prize, North Carolina's highest honor, exclusively for modernist houses. Welcome, Nathan.
Thanks very much. That's a very sweet opening.
Fritz Hengge is wanted by the FBI in 18 states. No, wait. No, Fritz is a registered architect in 18 states, a professional engineer in Wisconsin, a registered structural engineer in Illinois, and he still owes Blockbuster $14 in late fees from the 90s. For Burns and McDonnell, he leads manufacturing and industrial, pharmaceutical, institutional, commercial and food, beverage, and consumer products projects. Fritz has a degree in architecture from the University of Illinois at Chicago,
Go Flames!
a master's degree in project management from Northwestern University,
Go Wildcats!
and a master's degree in structural engineering from the Illinois Institute of Technology.
Go Mees, right?
Welcome, Fritz.
Thank you.
So, Nathan, before we get started on the Lake House, you designed not only one of the best houses in cinema, the Lake House, but also one of the all-time coolest vehicles in movie history, the Tumbler. Tell us about the Tumbler.
Well, the Tumbler, actually, I designed that just prior to the Lake House, so they're very related. Well, they're unrelated, but literally got off Batman Begins having shot in Chicago, and it was my first time to Chicago, and I remember thinking, this is a great place, and then I was swiftly offered the Lake House. But the Tumbler was really, our first sort of journey into vehicle design, and myself and Chris Nolan were like, we have to design a sort of modern Batmobile that relates to the present, and obviously the present at that time was about sort of urban vehicles. I've always been a big fan of angular car design, like going back to like the Quattro and going back to, the Citroen. My favorite car is the 71 Citroen Maserati. It doesn't work, but I've always liked...
Minor detail.
I always mix. So it was like, let's mix a mid-engine sports car with a tank. So that was the design brief. And we came up with the Tumbler, and it drives, and we got it up to 100 miles per hour at one point, and then we did drive it all around the loop. We shot all the way around the loop in Chicago, and we have these giant handbrakes in it, so we could pull them and corner it. You could take a 90-degree turn, interestingly, because it's a 2.5-ton car.
I was going to ask how big it was. Wow.
Yeah, it's 2.5 tons, and it's got like a big block Chevy engine. It's right behind where you drive, so it's incredibly hot. It really is a sort of badly designed car, but it looks cool. So, it goes. When you see it jump through that waterfall in Batman Begins, that's a real car jumping at you. It's no CGI, but that was so much fun. And then, of course, we ended up, that was my introduction to Chicago, which is like, this town is, it looks fantastic. It's like, everything I like about modernism is there.
Yeah, it's a great architecture city.
Nathan, how many Tumblers did you build, and are there any still around that people can go visit?
Yeah, they're at the Warner Museum. We built ones because every time we jump it into that cave, we'd have to do a run-up down the studio lot and then into the cave. We probably built about 9 to do different things. Some of them had to flip, and there's about probably 2 or 3 left because then we did the Dark Knight Rises, so we progressively destroyed them. But yeah, no, they're still there. Yeah, no, I haven't been inside one since just before the Lake House. I drove one around when we were testing them, and it was extremely good fun.
But hot.
Very hot. There's it's just there's no visibility either. You can't. The windows are so little. We actually put little cameras everywhere so you could actually see where you're going. You need a periscope.
Oh,
but I
my.
guess that's the tank of it.
Yeah, that's how tanks got around, right?
Yeah, and if you hit something, you okay, providing it wasn't a person.
I learned about this, Nathan, because the Tumbler is characterized by those giant wheels that are in front of it. And it was featured on a recent Batmobile documentary that you were in.
That's right. I was in that documentary. I've only seen parts of that. I guess, I'm desperate. I should watch stuff. But they were odd tires. We needed a certain size, and we had no front axle. So they were like for beach buggies or some kind of off-road vehicle, those tires. And, really, I guess the Tumbler's like the Citroen Maserati, definitely super unreliable in the long term.
But it looks great parked and moving.
Yeah.
But great fun. I guess it's like architecture. You just got to take the risk. It's like, I like it. If they don't like it, then I'll become an angry man in the corner.
You can't have that.
Now, Fritz, you're not in the movie business, so how did you get connected to the Lake House production?
So I was working for an engineering firm in Chicago, and we were working with the Forest Preserve to design a fishing pier that was supposed to go in the location of that, where the lake house was going to go. And we were going through the permitting process, and we're waiting for 6 months to get the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to return our phone calls to give us approval to proceed with the construction of that fishing pier. And right in the middle of that waiting, we got contacted by, I think, Warner Brothers, that they were interested in talking to us about our project location and possibly get involved in designing a lake house for a movie. So I think since our company had the relationship with the Forest Preserve and we had knowledge of the site, I guess we were asked first if we wanted to get involved, and we had about, 20 minutes to decide if we wanted to get involved or not, because I think Warner Brothers had a couple of other people lined up after us that they were needing to see. It went really, really quick. They called us, I think, like half an hour beforehand, and then they just showed up at our office. Before they left, they wanted an answer. So it was...
That sounds about right for the film industry.
Yeah.
For some reason, there's never any time, and it's just about. I think it's mainly driven by release schedules and actor schedules. But we're desperately in the rush, and I know the real world, as I would call you, Fritz, always astonished by who are these nutballs coming in here?
Yeah, but on the flip side, it was interesting because while we were waiting for 6 months for them to return our call just on a small little fishing pier, I think we got our permit for this one from our U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in 4 hours.
Oh.
The film industry has a way to speed things up.
And where was the lake portrayed in the lake house?
Oh, we don't really identify. I don't think we ever named the lake. It's Maple Lake in Illinois, but I don't think we ever identify the lake as Maple Lake or as any place. It's always just referred to as a lake house. We're going back 15 years. I'd have to analyze the script, but I don't think we ever say where it is.
Okay.
Really, we needed an empty lake. Just as Warner Brothers rush into Fritz's office, they also come to me and says, "Of course you can find a lake house on an empty lake. It's Illinois." Of course you can find a modernist lake house. It was like...
And Fritz, you were being asked to build a fishing pier on this lake?
Yeah, so we had designed a fishing pier for the Bullock County Forest Preserve, and it was part of a shoreline restoration project that we were working on with them. Yeah, construction documents were done. We had received a permit from the county and was waiting for a U.S. Army Corps of Engineer permit. And the contractor was on board. They were ready to break ground and get going on it.
Nathan, describe for us what the house was like. What was it made of, and how did it hold together?
I guess, Chicago, I love the history of Chicago. I specifically like the White City. I love those exhibitions of that era, especially like the Crystal Palace that was set up in Hyde Park, and then eventually moved to Crystal Palace. I love that era, but I also grew up with a father's architect. We grew up in a glass house not a lake house, but a glass box. So I love the modernism, but I love the romanticism of that era, the glass house era with its decoration. And so when you're a film designer, it's not about, you also have to design for the story. You have to engage in that narrative. And the narrative was this big romance. So I felt that I would dangerously, to architects who, I have many friends who are architects who were very upset, mix 60s modernism with period glass house. And I would often say to them, look, I need to put romanticism because it's a bit too quick view. It's too brutalist. And they would say, no, there's romanticism in glass houses. So anyway, I did it. That was my thing was I love like those glass houses, those details, and like the Grand Palais in Paris. It's like, I mean, it's just this sort of, it has this sort of age. And I knew I wanted to put a house on stilts in the lake, and we knew through the location manager, James McAllis, I don't know if you remember him, Fritz, and Troy Osmond, the construction manager, we knew that you were building piers in there, so we were thinking, well, maybe we put this thing on stilts, and that allowed us, part of the story is Alex, or Keanu, builds a pier. He always says, you should be able to touch the water. So it allowed us to add, we had script stuff that we needed to include in it. Plus, I mean, it's crazy things in film, like the camera angle of the mailbox to the house has to be right. There's lots of these things that you have to take into consideration. But anyway, the house design was a sort of mix of turn of the century exhibition glass houses, the 19th century, I should say, with modernist glass house. So it was really a mix about, I guess it was nostalgia, that you felt some nostalgia for that wasn't too brutalist. Because then you kind of sympathize with Alex, remembering his mother in this place.
Now, Fritz, who built the house and how long did it take to construct?
The gentleman by the name of Troy Osborne, I believe.
Osmond, yeah.
So we worked closely with him. We had about 2 weeks. So we got the sketch of it. We got a 3D sketch of what it was going to look like. And then we got a rudimentary plan with some basic dimensions on it. And we had about 2 weeks to do the structural design. Then Troy wanted to go out for bids to 3 different steel contractors, and then we had to get a permit from the county. So we had about a total of 3-4 weeks to design it. And then Troy, I think, built the whole thing in 7-8 weeks.
Wow, that's fast.
That's fast. Yeah.
So we started in January, and then I think by early February is when we issued for fabrication, steel fabrication, and then I think they moved in early April. So we worked with Troy to identify, like, the steel frame. He insisted there wouldn't be any on-site welding, so it's all bolted connections. He told us that Nathan didn't want any diagonal bracing, so we had to do kind of moment connections to keep the building from swaying too much in the wind. And we worked with steel fabricators to identify what kind of steel members and columns they have readily available. Otherwise, you run into lead time issues.
Now, I couldn't tell this from the movie, and I know it was just a house built for a film, but was there a bathroom in it?
Absolutely not. Actors don't need to go to the bathroom. So that's brilliant. I mean, it's weird. We had to consider, really, it's always about air conditioning and heating because we had to plug in some of those things. And really because it was over the water. Often we build exterior sets and you run a AC hose in and then you pull it out for the camera. And then the toilet, the portaloos in the lot, that's...
Right.
But this house is over water. So we were building it, we were going to shoot in spring, and you know what Chicago's like or Illinois is like. It's not friendly in winter, and then it gets very hot in summer. So it was like we needed both. So we definitely plugged some in because we just couldn't get the hoses in, and it was glass. So, very unpractical house, I would say. Wouldn't you agree,
Yes.
Fritz?
I'm still trying to figure out where that attic is that's in the movie.
Yeah, the secret attic. It was like, I refused to put an attic in it, and it was like, I think in post-production they made me build an attic in the studio lot. It was like, that house doesn't have an attic. Like, put his box in the cupboard. But the writer was insistent, or the director, I don't know who, and it was like, well, where does an attic go here? It was like, it's a flat roof with a glass canopy that opens for a tree. It's very funny. Like, I get a lot of stick over that attic, but I have no, it's like, it shouldn't exist. But the house stood well. I mean, it had a lot of crew on it. So Fritz and his team, I mean, sometimes you have like 30, 40 people in there,
Wow.
constantly.
Nathan, I understand that you spent your entire budget pretty much for the movie on the house, with the rest of the movie in existing locations. What got to be so expensive about the lake house?
Well, we had no time to build it, and we end up paying the amount of labor. I mean, usually in film you kind of spread it out over a series of sets, but when we couldn't find a lake house to suit, and I knew going there we would not find it, and we would have to build it. We were on a relatively medium budget film. We didn't have endless resources, so you get given a slice of the pie, and I think I got, for my construction budget was like $1.1 million for the entire film, which might sort of sound like a lot, but if you're going to 40, 50 locations, you divide that, does that up to a lot. So then I knew that I had to build a lake house, and with Troy, the construction manager, is like, okay, we have to go and see the studio and just tell him, like, I'm going to spend $900,000 on the lake house. And they were not happy with that, and I said, well, then you need to rename your movie.
The Tract House.
We got to build it, and it's got to be that. And I said, I can do it because we're in Chicago. We have such brilliant locations in Chicago. Brilliant. And there's so much to choose from all over the place. Like LaSalle Street alone has interiors. And Chicago is one of the most welcoming film cities in the world. I knew I could do it. I just had to convince Warner Brothers. And really it was expensive because we had to work. Fritz was doing the still stuff. We were having that made. We were prefabbing all the windows and everything in like machine shops, working long hours, and that's a lot of labor. We had to get lots and lots of teams building all the parts and build it like a Lego set at the end. They all had to come together. And so that gets very expensive when you look at the labor costs of something like that. So, yeah, it was just a hurry. I mean, to build that house in 7 or 8 weeks, it was, it's like all these things. I didn't think we'd make it. We didn't seem to have any hiccups. You expect something to not show up like the glass,
Well, as a production designer, do you find yourself resenting people who rely on CGI?
Not really, because it's weird. It's like we make films practically, and and I love practical filmmaking because it's so much more fun.
Yeah.
If you're going to sit in a sound stage with green screen, I don't want to do that. It's like I didn't want to work for commercial architects in the City of London doing their canteens. I just get bored, and then I'm useless. So to go outside and attempt to build a lake house and achieve something makes me feel great. And, and I like the adventure of it and trying to get it done. And, at the end of the day, we're making a film. We're not saving lives. So if we have to delay a week, sorry. But I think practical filmmaking is just more interesting, and old techniques. I mean, we still use a lot of miniatures. It's odd because nowadays I've become one of the few designers who still knows how to do practical techniques because everyone else is retired who taught me them. I find myself more in demand now because we build miniatures and paint backings and do false perspectives. And really it was because when I was young in my 20s, these guys would teach us this stuff and it was phenomenal, The other thing is you get weather, and if you go outside, and I remember on Dark Knight we had to film on the Sears Tower, I don't know what it's called now, on the 90th floor or the 80th floor, and put Christian Bale out there, and it was a storm brewing, and the helicopter pilot had a camera, and he was trying to get him standing on the Sears Tower, and we had a rope tied to his foot or a piece of cable to tie him off to make sure, he'd be safe to some degree, I guess. And we were all up there, and it was like, and the cameraman said, I can't see a thing, and it's just like, just roll camera, let's see what it looks like. I think it's one of the best shots in the film. CG can't predict that. They say they can, but I think you get some emotion from real things that you can touch, and the audience feels it. Like, people felt that house was real. It wasn't a door with an extension. You know what I mean?
Right.
So And I think that's really important for audiences. And our job as designers is to make the audience just accept that exists without question and, almost to go unnoticed. And when you do CG and the camera's in an impossible place, it just feels like a video game to me. Sorry, all you CG lovers.
I was one of the people among many who did fall in love with the house, and I heard that after production, Sandra Bullock fell in love with it and wanted to buy it. Is that right, Fritz?
To be honest, after it was built, I had never saw it again, and I asked him what happened to it, and he wouldn't tell me.
Well, they took it apart. It's gone.
Oh, really?
I know
Yeah.
it's gone.
It was disassembled.
Gone, yeah.
But I'm wondering if anybody knows, what happened to it. Did they just throw the steel away, or did somebody rebuild it somewhere?
Well, there was an idea to rebuild it. Troy, the construction contractor, took it apart. Obviously, he couldn't save the glass, but he took the steel frame and the parts apart and flat packed it with the hope that someone might fund building it somewhere. But that, I think people move on. I think the studio moved on, and it just, I think it was probably put in storage somewhere. There's these vast warehouses full of set pieces that are stored because in case someone wants to go back and pick up a shot after they edit it. So it really is the Indiana warehouses. You can find submarines in there and things. I think it ended up in there. A great shame.
Is this like the Ark of the Covenant where we have to find it in a government warehouse somewhere?
Oh, yeah, there's lots of those.
Yeah. Of course, the resale value of a glass house with no bathroom might be limited.
But it's got a hole in the middle where the tree is.
Oh, which could be repurposed.
After the movie aired and over the years since, have people reached out to you besides us about the lake house?
A few people. I think people just sort of comment on it, just sort of, they really like the house. I get these odd posts saying, what happened to the house, or do you have any of the original sketches? And I took a bunch of photos because I gave my father, who hung it proudly, finally his son had made a glass house, although he didn't agree with the detailing. There's
parents for you.
Was your father an architect, Nathan?
He was, yeah. He was a true, and he worked on, as a young man, he worked on the Barbican in London. And then he had the house built we grew up in, which was a glass house. I grew up with breeze block or concrete block walls and glass. He was verging on brutalist, I think. So,
this movie is really about you because one of the main plots in the movie is a relationship between Alex and his father, who is also an architect.
Well, that's why I kind of took the film. It was like, oh, this is familiar. My dad would be like, he'd be sitting on his drawing board with his felt tip pens, and he says, I said, what happens if you make a mistake? He says, I don't make mistakes. We definitely, he was the architect. No, it was very much like, oh, Jesus, this story is like, this is my dad,
Wow.
He was a firm believer. He was definitely the O'Rourke, and he lived by his principles. Like, in fact, we even lived in the Barbican for a while when it wasn't popular. In fact, we just finished that film Tenant, and we got to film in the Linner Hall, which is the Soviet 1980 arena, which is a piece of, it's like the Barbican on steroids. And
oh, wow.
I finally put that modernist brutalism thing in my head that had been drilled in all my life to bed. It's like, okay, this is it. We got a 5,000 brutalist arena called the Linner Hall in Tallinn. And it's finally like, oh yeah, there you go. That is the pinnacle. I remember standing with Chris Nolan going, okay, I think we've done this period of architecture.
Now, Fritz, was the lake house your only single-family residential project? Because you tend to do much bigger projects.
Well, as much as it is a single-family home, I did do some renovation projects for single-family homes in the suburbs, but nothing that would come anywhere near aspiring to design excellence or anything beyond useful, practical additions. No, my background is mostly in industrial and public, more engineering type projects.
I was wondering if there were any secret lake houses that we should find out about of yours, Fritz, that are, hanging around the Midwest.
You mean duplicate the design and adapt it to a useful single-family house?
Right.
Yeah, with a bathroom. Yeah.
Right, and build it in 7 weeks.
A bathroom.
Did that fishing pier ever get built?
It did get built, yes. The permitting process through the Army Corps of Engineers went a lot faster after the Warner Brothers kind of set the tone by moving, I don't know how many thousands of cubic feet of dirt.
Nathan, I have one last question for you. I have heard for years that Sofia Coppola is a Modernist fan. Do you know you worked with her recently on La Traviata?
Yeah, God, have we had that conversation? We tried to work on a few films, and I believe she is. I don't know. Yes, and I think she has appreciation of it. We've never discussed that, but it's definitely. It's not like her tastes would not necessarily align with mine, but we find common ground. So I don't know if I can answer that, but I suspect she probably is, because she certainly likes the furniture. I know that for sure.
Well, if you chat with her, please let her know that we'd love to have her on the show to talk about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, we're in a time at the moment, a dreadful time where everyone's available to do things.
That is true.
So, well, I mean, the film industry is definitely on hold, and so we get to catch up on all the things we promise and never show up for. So.
Yeah, my wife and I are busy binging all these TV shows at home, and it suddenly hit us that in the fall, will there be anything to watch? Because at some point, the stuff that was done before March is going to run out, right?
It will do, yeah. I think, I mean, I would suggest going back to Turner Movie Classics.
Oh, yeah.
I'm already there. I'm already on Turner Movie Classics, and pick a director and watch all their, pick like Billy Wilder, watch all his films, and it's just like, there's some in there that I've never seen, and it's like, I mean, I guess we've all slowed down a bit, haven't we?
We have.
Which is kind of nice. I mean, it's awful what's happening, but it does make me slow down and stop and definitely reevaluate what we're up to.
Fritz, Nathan, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I've been wanting to talk with you guys since I saw the movie 15 years ago, and it's great to get some of the backstory about how it came together and what happened to it and your thoughts about it as we came along. Thank you so much for coming on.
God, pleasure.
Well, thank you for having us.
What finally happened at the lake house? I spoke with Troy Osmond, who built it. Sadly, the house is not in a secret warehouse somewhere. It was sent to scrap. The expediency required at the end of the film to restore the area to original condition meant no time to arrange the subsequent location. Osmond saved a few beams for a few years, but then had to get rid of those too. Like all of us, he would love to see the house rebuilt one day. You're working along at your desk or driving in your car listening to music. These days, you're likely listening to a streaming service like iTunes or Stitcher or Pandora. 4 years ago, I was at my desk writing up one of these podcasts, and I created a Diana Krall channel on Pandora on my iPhone. Diana Krall burst in the scene in the mid-90s and is one of the world's foremost jazz singers, up there with Michael Bublé and, yes, even Ella Fitzgerald. Pandora channels work like a bot-run DJ or an Amazon recommendation. You know, if you bought X, then you'll love Y. Channels always start with the person you've picked, then go to play similar artists you are likely going to like. About 5 songs into the feed on a hot, muggy Tuesday night, I heard an entrancing voice, so clear, so beautiful, that the air suddenly became fresh and cool. The room brightened. A unicorn passed by my window. And I spent the next 4 minutes going, damn. That voice was Heather Rigdon, a jazz and contemporary singer you should know more about. Like a show on TLC, she was born to a Pentecostal family with 3 sisters and kept from popular music, except for maybe a little Ray Charles, until her teens. She didn't record her first album, Young and Naive, until 2007 in her 30s. The song choices in the album are anything but young and naive. They share a common point of view, a breathlessly smart, beautiful, independent woman who is in no hurry for commitment and is having a great time until some lucky guy comes along. Young and Naive was produced with a simple trio of piano, bass, and drums, bringing Heather's intimate, soulful vocals to shine. Some of her songs from the album are in films and TV. Table for Two is featured in Trust the Man, starring Julianne Moore and David Duchovny, and also the new Fox drama Whitaker Bay. Hi, Heather.
Hello. Wow. Thank you for that intro.
George, are you the lucky guy?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
So, Heather, I assume growing up as a Pentecostal, you didn't live in a modernist house. Is that right?
Well, actually, we lived in more of a traditional, we lived in the parsonage, for the majority of my upraising in Plano, Texas. Yeah, it wasn't a modernist. Some of the things like functionality and, sparse decor, things like that, those kinds of things could be similar,
But you live in a more modern house now.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Very, very humble, but it's really great. It's basically some millennial couple had redone the entire house and left behind a sea urchin lamp fixture for me, which I adore. And it's in our big open bay window, where you can see the urchin light from the street and the perfect family having dinner. Everybody's coming home after the rush.
And you're not in Plano anymore, are you?
We are now hailing from Hendersonville, Tennessee, just about 18 miles northeast of Nashville. But the style, when they knocked out the wall in the front, they really opened up the whole big area. So my 3-year-old and my 5-year-old basically have a heyday. They have their scooters inside and their rollerblades, and on rainy days and COVID, they find enough time to be in and out, but definitely enjoy going down the long haul.
That Ray Charles tape, Heather, that your dad had, was that something that was contraband for the church, or was Ray Charles an approved performer?
Well, my dad has always been, pushing the edge a little. He had the benefit of traveling quite a lot, he and my mom in their early days. He met Mother Teresa. He was head of the youth missions division, so they traveled all over the world. So he had a broader scope, and he always loved Ray Charles, and because he was from Louisiana. It was an 8-track, actually, and it was in his drawer. For them, it was secular music. It was definitely something that would have been, I wouldn't say frowned upon, but it wasn't necessarily what was normally accepted.
It wasn't in the canon of approved tunes.
Yes. No, that's true. Well, he was kind of a wild man,
I understand that your first, big-time popular concert was U2. That must have been amazing.
Oh, my Lord. It was amazing. It was Dallas. They did Bullet the Blue Sky and cast these huge searchlights into the sky, and it made it look like we were standing in a cathedral. And it was just fantastic. It blew my mind. I was 24 years old. When I was in middle school, I had a buddy who would burn me. Well, not burn me because it wasn't CDs, but it was mixtapes. Mm-hmm. And so they would burn me a few things here and there. So some of my secular exposure was really, really random and all over the place. But I think one thing that kind of set me apart when I came to town here and was singing my own demos was I hadn't been listening heavily to Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston, or I wasn't really influenced by some of the current voices because I really didn't have, hadn't had a whole lot of access to them. Because the main things I was influenced were Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, or Greta Garbo, or anything from the Silver Screen, or Singing in the Rain. Like there was so much of an older sound, I guess. So I think that's really what started perking up some of the ears of the producers here, was that it just didn't sound like everybody else.
What led you to this jazz area that you're so great at?
I'd always loved jazz. I'd always, listened. Ella Fitzgerald, of course, was wonderful, and Peggy Lee were two influencers for sure. But I really fell into the jazz thing when I was new to Nashville in 2000. A girlfriend of mine had invited me to a dinner, and it was more oftentimes than not, you'd go to a dinner and a concert would break out because after dinner, everybody just starts picking up an instrument and you would go around the circle. It's kind of like the, Riders in the Round that they do at Bluebird. Well, you would do that in people's homes. And so people would be showcasing something new they were working on, or if somebody was a singer, they just brought a song maybe they'd want to sing. And I actually met Clifford during one of those times.
He's your producer.
He's my producer, and he is the genius behind the music that you hear. And when he heard my voice, he began to, put my voice in that format. And it was really interesting for me for a while, because I used to tell him, I felt like I was borrowing this really expensive, really luxurious dress. I was like, wow, this is really fantastic, and I want to take this dress out, and I want to take it for a dance and a drive or something. And at the time, I was a little intimidated. One of the reasons why I think it took 7 years for the first one is I was really intimidated by the genre, mainly because there's so many just fantastic players. And there's sometimes the feeling that when you're the voice, that somehow maybe that's a little, and this was my feeling, was that here I was surrounded by these fantastic musicians, and, they could talk all these songs and they could talk all these different parts, and the reason why they're cool, it's augmented fifth over a, diamond seven, or, and I'm totally messing that up, I'm sure. But, it was really a little intimidating at first, but I don't know if it was maybe all the time, like in gospel choir, because jazz and gospel, they're rooted together down there, way, way deep down under the tree. And that was one thing that Clifford said. He said, you really don't have to sing it. You just have to tell the story. And so we began doing that. My biggest draw with Cliff at the beginning was I was getting the chance to write. And I was hoping to further my talents and learn the craft as a writer. Working with Clifford, I was able to do some of that.
From her album Young and Naive, the song I first heard 4 years ago on a hot, muggy Tuesday night, Bad for Business.
Soft touch, sweet smile. Maybe I could stay a while. I ought to be wild and free, but something you're selling's got a hold on me. One woman, more than one man. Your basic law of supply and demand. I've done the math, and babe, the truth is you're bad for business. You're bad for business. What's a girl to do? My 5-year plan says to drop the man, but I can't follow through. A single girl, a world of time. Settling down would be a crime. Ice blue eyes and red hot kisses. Baby, you're bad for business. You're bad for business. I can't get you off of my mind. Instead of playing the field and the art of the deal, you're taking up all of my time. Is only a game where sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, but sometimes a loss is a gain. So steal a kiss, make me sigh. The benefits are pretty high. The bottom line comes down to this: you're bad for business. The bottom line comes down to this: you're bad for business.
It's amazing how outside my window there's another unicorn. How does that happen?
I was watching George while I was listening to that. He was dancing in his chair. It was funny.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
I wish I could have seen that. We should have zoomed that straight in.
Yeah, right.
We should have zoomed that.
I was thinking about Bad for Business. That whole, first album was really kind of like a diary of just ideas about love and things that I was experiencing, and, how the idealism kind of meets up with the day-to-day. When I first came to Nashville, I was, just kind of dating around and trying to find out a little bit of more of who I was and, put some pieces together. It was very interesting to me. The first album was over 7 years, and the second album was also another 7. And Bad for Business was something I did with Clifford and Christy Jackson, and we really loved that vibe. And that's kind of what it was kind of my way to send out my ambassador when I was dating. I never had to get very close to anyone. And later on, when we listened to the other song, if you juxtapose them together, it's very interesting because if you listen to the vocal is a very different feel. And To Have and to Hold was one that I recorded a little later in those 7 years. And I was a little wiser, and I had, met someone that I was really willing to work on. It's no longer all their problem and what they're bringing to the relationship. You start looking at, when it's someone you want to have and to hold, you really start looking at what are some of the things I can change. Once you find someone that you feel you can make a life with. I don't know, I hadn't really listened to those songs back to back, but the approach is very different and very hopeful and a little raw, where I think Bad for Business, I'm definitely like the siren, I'm going to lure them to their doom, and generally did. But
and their bankruptcy.
and near bankruptcy. Yeah. So, it was just something I noticed when I was kind of listening to the song. Both are really beautiful.
You've got a song called Big in Japan. Like David Hasselhoff is big in Germany and Jerry Lewis was top of the line in France. Is that true? Are you really big in Japan?
Huge in Japan.
Ooh.
No, I am. That was really tongue in cheek. Obviously, big fan of Tom Waits, and that was something. Yeah, I think he had a song, that was big in Japan. That became the joke because between Clifford and I, there were a lot of things happening in Nashville. There was rock and roll happening in Nashville. There was, obviously there was country. There was some electro stuff starting to happen, and then you'd have this small little pigeonhole, and there was jazz. We always thought, this music we were making was really beautiful and gorgeous. It wasn't so much recognized here, but here I was, I was a teacher. I am a special ed teacher, and so I would teach during the day, and I would, try to gig, whenever I could at nights. And it was interesting because it's like all day, most of the people who came in contact with me never even knew that I sang because I was just paying the bills. And here I was, I had an album out of Japan, and it was Young and Naive was picked up. I had top rate billing in the stores, like it was me, Nora Jones, and Willie Nelson. I guess they were grouping all the American Texas swing jazz, country jazz stuff. So it was kind of like a little nod to the fact that I may not be a very big deal here, but, I'm huge. I'm big in Japan,
Well, we're number 3 in Singapore, so.
Yeah, we're number 3 in Singapore, Heather.
Oh, nice.
So
we
got that
going
for us,
then.
which is nice. Tell me about this next song, To Have and to Hold, which is really one of the most gorgeous tunes I've heard in a long time.
Well, first off, this is definitely Cliff's and Jeff Cohen's baby. And when they brought it in, I immediately loved it because I was actually at a point where I, had met someone, and we had actually broken up once, and we had decided, to kind of go our separate ways, but I kept holding on to the idea of what I thought we could do together and what we could build together. And that's kind of what I feel a lot in this song. And actually, when I was singing it, there were so many emotions just in the little vocal booth for me. And I'm very raw, I'm very open, and I'm very open to the idea, not just the idea of love anymore, but open to, okay, I'm ready to knuckle down and do the work and really find someone or make my way back to my now husband who, we definitely have done these things. And one thing that was really interesting was fast forward, we were listening to what would be released on this, album and things like that. And I was pregnant with my my first little girl. I don't know. There's a lot of really good feels in this song for me, and I know it's a favorite. I know a lot of couples have favorited it and use it in their ceremonies, their sacred ceremonies, because it really is just it's a very good representation, I think, of what love is and what love can be.
From Heather's album Young and Naive to Having to Hold.
It's one thing to have a dream and another to watch it come true. To hold out for heaven, then see it every time I look at you. Don't mean to talk so obviously, but can't you see I'm naturally so in love? Lo and behold, I've been a fool, but only a fool would hang on to hope long enough to know there's no letting go, to have and to hold you. How could I promise my forever till I found the one to come along and read my mind? Who I know now I can't live without, and began to doubt I would ever find. I can't believe how honestly I've come to be deliciously so in love. Lo and behold, I've been a fool, but only a fool would hang on to hope long enough to know there's no letting go, to have and to hold Lo and behold, I've been a fool, but only a fool would hang on to hope long enough to know there's no letting go, to have and to hold you. There's no letting go, to have and to hold you.
Wow, Heather, that's so great.
A very
Thank you
different
very much.
song from Bad for Business.
Yes, and like I had mentioned earlier, I was in two very different places when I
Yeah.
did the vocal, and I think that's really interesting to kind of, had I done them all like within 2 months or something, I probably would have been in the same state of mind. But having reflecting back on it and the times that we recorded those, it was really interesting to kind of remember where I was personally, in that spot and how it really translated to the lyric.
I could see you, and not many people would I say this to, but I could see you recording some Leonard Cohen songs.
Oh, thank you. That I would love. I love every bit of him. Yes, I got to see him at TPAC probably 5 years ago, and he was still like a prize fighter. He came out just punching, and he's so brilliant.
Wow.
I would love to do anything he has, always and forever.
It's so interesting. There are many, many artists, of course, who admire Leonard Cohen, but only a few, really, that have made an attempt to try to capture some of his depth, and I'm pretty sure you could pull that off.
I love him in his early years, but when I saw him, he was mainly in his lower register, and when he's singing "I'm Your Man," oh my God, the whole crowd just could feel the gravel, shaking under them. It's just, he's brilliant. And I think I have a little bit of that gravel, or I can dig for it in my voice.
Oh, yes.
I think so.
Oh, yes. The earthquake meter is rumbling all the time you're singing. Heather, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been great.
Thank you, George. I appreciate it.
This was an encore presentation of U.S. Modernist Radio, underwritten by the Brent R. Harris Charitable Trust, restorer of several modernist houses, including Richard Neutra's Kaufman Desert House in Palm Springs, and by Diane Bald and the Budman family, restoring significant architecture in Toronto, Los Angeles, Malibu, and Palm Springs. Visit USModernist.org's massive archives to listen to past shows, discover documentation of 25,000 significant modernist houses, and access 5 million pages of classic 20th century architecture magazines. U.S. Modernist Radio is produced by Soundtracks Recording Studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. Our theme song is performed by George Smart and Robinson Earl, with guest research by Bobby Morris. U.S. Modernist Radio is a production of Modernist Archive Incorporated, a nonprofit educational archive for the documentation, preservation, and promotion of modernist residential design. I'm Tom Guile. Listen to any of our over 400 shows at usmodernist.org.